What if I told you that time as you believe it simply does not exist, that the past so vivid in your memory is a figment of the mind, a story you tell yourself to make sense of the now time as you think is not a straight line with a beginning, middle and end. It's more like a shattered mirror pieces of what we think of as the past reflections of what we call the present echoes of what we imagine the future, all coexisting in the same breath in a single vibration of consciousness. Have you ever noticed how the memory of a moment can be more real than the moment itself? How does a memory, even if distorted, seem to have a weight, a density, an authority greater than what is actually happening? The past, my dear, is an elegant lie, a polished narrative constructed with fragments chosen by an internal narrator that we call ego. Watch carefully. When you say I was, what you are really saying is I remember being, and memory is a creative construction. It is not a faithful record of what happened, but a constant reinterpretation, a theatrical version of events shaped by emotions, beliefs, and contexts of the now. You never remember the past as it was. You remember him as you are today, and that already changes everything. So what is the past? A tale retold so many times that we no longer know where the memory ends and the invention begins. But then, if that's what the past is, and the future is a projection, a fantasy painted with paints of desire or fear, where is time? Where does it actually take place? Look around. You are breathing, feeling, thinking. That's what there is. The now. And now is not a point in time, it is the very fabric of reality. Time is not something that flows like a river. Time is something we are taught to perceive as linear because our language, our culture, our stories structure it that way. But reality itself is not at all concerned with this illusion. See the clocks, see the calendars. They are all conventions, tools we use to coordinate actions, to measure change. But none of them proves that time as an objective sequence of moments actually exists. In fact, what we call time is change. And change doesn't happen in time. Change is time. The growth of a plant, the maturation of a face, the wear of a stone. All of this is movement transformation. But there isn't a cosmic clock counting down the seconds somewhere. There is only the ceaseless dance of existence which flows like music without a score. Each note fades in and out, and you can only hear it as it plays. And here's the paradox: while you live trapped between regret for the past and anxiety for the future, the now escapes. Not because it is elusive, but because you are not there to inhabit it. You are too busy reliving what cannot be changed or anticipating what may never come. But now, oh, now is eternal. It never started and it will never end, because everything that exists exists now. Even your memory of the past, even your imagination of the future only occurs now, inside your mind right now. And that brings us to a deeper question. Who are you without your past? Who are you without this linear narrative that says, I was born, here I lived this, I suffered that, I conquered that? Who are you really without the story you repeat to yourself? The ego clings to time like a shipwrecked man clings to a board. He needs the past to justify his existence. You need the future to project yourself, to dream of control, of success, of permanence. But consciousness, pure consciousness, doesn't need any of that. She simply is. And when you begin to rest in this state of presence, you discover something. Amazing. Time collapses. Have you ever had the feeling that certain moments last forever, or what time passed in the blink of an eye? This does not happen because time has changed. It happens because your presence has changed. Psychological time is elastic. It stretches or compresses depending on how intensely you live. An instant of love can contain centuries of eternity. A boring afternoon can last a prison sentence. What we call time, therefore, is largely a reflection of the quality of attention. And if attention is what shapes time, then the master of time is not the clock, it's consciousness. The more you are present, the more time loses its grip. It stops being an implacable lord and becomes a soft dancing melody that does not require haste or control. You realize you're not going anywhere, that life is not a ladder with steps to climb, but a tapestry being woven with every thread of breath of presence of being. So stop now. Breathe. Notice the silence between the words. It is there in this invisible interval that eternity reveals itself. The past is not real, the future is not guaranteed. And time as you think is just a hypothesis, a useful but specious assumption. The truth is you never left the now. You've never been anywhere else. You are the now. And if you can really feel it, not just understand it with your mind, but experience it with your heart, then all the rush, all the guilt, all the fear disappears. Life is not a race against time. It is an invitation to eternity. An invitation that is being made right now. Do you imagine now, that everything you consider your life, your personal history, your traumas, your achievements, is just a shadow dancing in the cave of your mind? You chase these shadows, believing that they are you, that they define who you are. But what would happen if you stopped believing in the solidity of time? What would be left? Silence, empty, or perhaps a freedom so vastly frightening that the ego wouldn't know what to do with it. Because without time, there is no fixed identity. And without identity, there is no one to protect, correct, or perfect. There is just presence. There is only this moment, bare, vibrant, incomplete, and yet perfect. See the sky. He doesn't carry a past. It does not project a future. He simply is. And we, in our human arrogance, believe that we need a timeline to be real, to validate the experience of existing. But being does not need to be validated. Being just is. Time, then, is a dream that we daydream about. And every time you say yesterday, you are actually saying a mental image I have now. Every time you say tomorrow, you are invoking an expectation in the now. Time was never outside of you. It is an internal theater. This is why the sages, the mystics, the visionaries of all traditions speak of the now with such reverence. Not because it's a spiritual fad, but because it's the only thing that actually exists. Your whole life happens now. And every attempt to escape, this is suffering. Suffering arises from comparison with a time that does not exist. You suffer because you believe that now should be different based on a past that may never have been what you think it was, or on a future that only exists as a projection. But here's the secret: when you accept the now as it is, without resistance, without judgment, without wanting to change it based on non-existent times, you free yourself. Because pain is real, but suffering is optional. Pain happens in the body. Suffering happens in the mind, and the mind operates within the illusion of time. So ask yourself honestly, where is the time right now? If you look in your body, you won't find it. If you look in nature, you will only see cycles, day-night seasons. But cycles are not linear time. They are patterns of renewal, of rebirth. Time, as a straight line, is a human invention. A useful map, yes, but never the territory. And we confuse the map with the territory. You are not your past. You are the field of consciousness in which the past appears as thought. You are not your future. You are the space where images of the future are projected like fantasies. And when you realize this, something extraordinary happens. Time dissolves like a fog. And behind this fog, what has always been there appears. The eternal present. The now which has not begun and cannot end. The now which does not belong to anyone, but which contains all beings. The now which is at the same time empty of form and full of life. And if you allow this silence to penetrate, you will see that there is nothing to fear in the dissolution of time. On the contrary, there is profound relief, because time requires effort. It demands plans, goals, corrections, but now invites surrender, on delivery, to dance with life without the weight of chronology. Have you ever noticed how the most intense moments of your life seem timeless? A passionate kiss, a sunrise, a child's laugh. In these moments you are not counting minutes, you are out of time. Because in those moments you are whole. And to be whole is to be present. Being present means not needing time. And then, with a subtle smile, you begin to realize that maybe all of this, the clock, the calendar, the birthdays, the deadlines, are just games. Symbolic games that we forgot were games. We start to take them too seriously. But life is not serious. Life is light. It's dance. It's game. And you no longer have to play with the rules of time if you want. You can just be. Like the sky. Like the wind. Like now. And when this understanding sets in, not as an idea but as an experience, time bows before the eternity that you are. Because time can only exist for those who believe they are separate from the moment. And you are not separate. You are the moment itself, manifesting infinitely. But there is a certain discomfort, isn't there? A restlessness that appears when we begin to loosen the bonds of time. Because as much as it imprisons us, time also offers comfort. He organizes the chaos, structures the confusion of life into understandable chapters. And the ego, this illusory entity that believes it is you, needs this structure like a fish needs water. After all, who is he without the narratives of I did, I conquered, I lost? Who is he without the drama of before and after? When you begin to realize that this might all just be a big dream, a theater where time is the stage and ego is the main character, something inside you falters. Because waking up to time is also waking up to yourself. Or better said, waking up from the idea you have of yourself. And that can feel like death. The death of control. The death of history. The death of identity. But the paradox once again awaits us with its silent smile. It is only when you accept dying for time that true life reveals itself. Not a life made up of hours, days, and years, but a raw, vivid, pulsating life that is happening right now inside you. A life that does not depend on the clock because it is before time. She is the origin itself. She is the pure being who observes everything without judgment, without rush, without past. And this being has no age. He was not born and will not die. He just is. Now look back at your memory. See how it feels like a book you've read so many times that you no longer know what was real and what was fantasy. Childhood memories, for example. You believe you remember, but do you really remember? Or do you just remember a memory, like an echo of an echo? Memory is a phenomenon of the now. It is evoked now, felt now, interpreted now. Even the oldest of your traumas lives only in the present, when you mentally relive it, and that changes everything. Because if the past only lives when you think about it, then you are free to let it die. It no longer needs to be a weight you carry. It may just be what it was, a wave that has passed, but whose foam still shines in your mind. What about the future? The future is the great ghost of modernity. We are constantly trying to anticipate it, control it, manipulate it. Science promises predictions. The economy tries to model. Spirituality sometimes tries to guess. But the future, by definition, does not exist. He is a projection, a guess, an attempt to capture the unmanifest. And every time you worry about what will come, you are actually resisting what is. Because worry is just a defense mechanism for the ego, which refuses to trust the fluidity of life. But life was not meant to be controlled. She is a river, not a machine. And the river doesn't need a map. He just follows turn after turn, trusting. In the invisible bed of existence, there is a profound beauty in letting go of the idea of time as an objective reality, because when you do that, something opens up. You begin to realize that everything is always renewing itself. Nothing is fixed, not even you. With each breath you are a new being. Every moment billions of cells are born and die in your body. With each thought a new version of your identity emerges and falls apart. Permanence is an illusion. Change is the only constant, and change need not be feared, because she is what you are. You are change, you are flow, you are now. So stop. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply, and as you exhale, let it all drop: your story, your worries, your fears. Let go of the idea of who you think you need to be tomorrow. Let go of the blame for who you think you were yesterday. Only this remains: this silence, this fertile void, this field of presence. This is where life really happens. Not in memories, not in plans, but in the untouched space between one thought and another. In the space where you, for a moment, don't try to be anything. It just is. And in that state you realize that you no longer need to run. You don't need to prove yourself anymore. You no longer need to get all the steps right, because there is no final destination. There is no finish line right now. Now is not a ladder. It is an ocean. And you're not here to reach the top. You are here to dive, to feel, to dissolve in the waters of existence. And the deeper you dive, the more you realize that you were never separate from life. That time never dragged you. It was you who decided to run after it. And now finally you can stop. It might just be. And by simply being, without seeking, without wanting to understand, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel life directly, without the filter of expectation, without the noise of memories. Like a child seeing the world for the first time, you look around and realize you've never actually seen what's in front of you. Everything looks new. The sky, the trees, people's faces, even your own hands, because the mind, too busy with time, was always looking at what it thought it saw, never at what it really is. And what it is indescribably beautiful. Not beautiful in the romantic sense, but in the sense of a silent and absolute presence which pulses through everything, as if the entire universe is whispering, "You are here, you have always been here." And that is enough. And it is at this point that time reveals itself not as a prison, but as a poetic language, not as a chain of events, but as a way of telling stories. Time then does not need to be destroyed, denied, fought. It simply needs to be understood for what it is: a symbolic instrument, a metaphor for experience. The problem arises when we confuse the symbol with reality, when we believe that there is a past that determines a future that condemns, and a present that only serves as a bridge between the two. But when you see time as poetry, something inside you relaxes. The need to control disappears. The urgency to fix the past or secure the future dissolves, because you understand that everything that has ever happened and everything that will ever happen is contained in this eternal now. There is nothing left to achieve, and this can seem scary to those who have been raised to always pursue something: a title, an ideal love, a career, enlightenment. But actually, it's the biggest relief there is, knowing that you don't need to go anywhere, that you are already at the center of the universe, that the stage of life is exactly where you are. It's like waking up from a dream where you ran non-stop and suddenly realizing you never moved. That movement was just a dance of thoughts. And the most beautiful thing about this perception is that it doesn't isolate you from the world. On the contrary, it connects you, because without time, separations dissolve. The other stops being a stranger with a different past and future. It becomes you in another form, in the same now. And love arises from there, from the recognition that there are no two. True love cannot happen between two beings separated in time. It only blooms when there is presence, when there is unity. And unity is only possible outside of time. Within time there is always distance. Outside of time there is communion. Maybe that's why so many moments of true connection between two people seem timeless. A mother's look at her son, the silent embrace between two lovers, the peaceful presence of a friend at your side in silence. In these moments, time disappears, and that's why they are engraved so deeply in our memory. Not because they happened at one point in time, but because they were experienced outside of it. They were pure experiences without past or future just now. And you can live like this, not just in isolated moments, but as a natural state. Being out of time doesn't mean not making plans or not remembering. It means not identifying with it. It means using time like you use a tool, but knowing that you are not the tool. You are the craftsman. It is consciousness that perceives everything. And this consciousness doesn't age, it doesn't run, it doesn't have a clock. It is the eternal background of all temporal experiences. And in that place, you find something that every spiritual quest has tried to name. They called it enlightenment, nirvana, samadhi, divine presence. But these words are just fingers pointing to the moon. What lies beyond them is a living, raw, simple, and powerful experience. An experience that cannot be explained, but can be lived, here now where time has no authority. Because the moment you abandon yourself to the present completely, you dissolve, and at the same time, it becomes the whole. And then, when someone asks you, "What time is it?" you can smile and respond with the simplest and most profound truth: it is now. It always was. It always will be. And this now, which has no beginning or end, cannot be measured or predicted, is the space where everything unfolds and at the same time dissolves. It is in this now that the sound is born and dies, that thought arises and remains silent, that birth and death intertwine like a cosmic breath. Everything you fear losing, everything you long to achieve, everything that makes you proud, and everything that hurts you, all of this lives in the now as a temporary form. The now is the silent and eternal stage where the characters of time make their entrances and exits. But the stage doesn't move. It just sustains. He just is. And when you recognize yourself as that stage, not as the characters, nor as the plot, you find a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances. It is not the peace of everything is right, but the peace of nothing needs to be different. It is the radical acceptance of impermanence, not as resignation, but as liberation. Because as long as you fight the natural flow of things, you will be swimming against the current of now. But when you let go, when you really let go, you realize that life knows the way, that the river of existence always knew where to take you, even when it seemed to be drowning you. Suffering arises not because time is real, but because you believe it is. You believe you need more time to be happy, more time to achieve, more time to heal. But what if everything you're looking for is already here, right now, disguised as simplicity? What if there is nothing to achieve, because everything is already available right now in the silence between one thought and another? The mind will say, this is dangerous, that without time you have no direction, that without time you have no ambition, discipline, purpose. But all this is just an echo of fear, because the ego does not survive in the now. It needs time to exist. It needs a before to justify itself and an after to project itself. In the now, it evaporates, and with it the weight of identity, the need to be someone, also evaporates. And interestingly, it is in this non-being that true being flourishes, a being that has no name, no form, no history, a being that is pure presence, living consciousness. And this awareness does not need to do anything. She just testifies. She watches the world move without moving with it. She feels it, but doesn't hold back. She loves, but doesn't demand. She lives, but does not cling to life as something separate from herself, because she is life itself. And then all the big questions of existence begin to lose the weight they had. Where do we come from? Where are we going? What's the point of all this? These questions are beautiful, but they are born from the illusion of time. They presuppose a beginning and an end. They presuppose a linearity that does not exist. In the now there is no beginning. In the now there is no end. There is only the eternal unfolding of what is. And meaning, meaning is not something you find in the future. It is something that is lived in the present. It is felt, not explained. It is lived, not thought. The meaning is in the dance, not in the completion of the dance. It's in the touch, not in the weight of the hands. Perhaps the biggest challenge is not understanding all of this, but allowing yourself to experience it. Allow yourself for just a moment not to seek anything. Don't project anything. Just be. To be this space where everything happens. Being that silence that welcomes sounds. To be this screen that does not interfere with the images that cross it. When you give yourself this gift, the gift of the present, something changes on a level so profound that it cannot be described in words. And at the same time, everything remains the same. Because the world doesn't change when you wake up from time, but you change. And with that, your relationship with the world changes completely. You start to see with different eyes, start listening beyond the sound. It begins to touch on the mystery of being alive without having to explain it. With each step, you no longer move towards a future. You dance with the moment. And in this dance, there is no choreography. There is delivery, there is trust, there is presence. And that's all. And when that presence takes root within you, when you stop just understanding and start embodying that state of being, time doesn't just disappear. It turns into art. You start to live poetically. And living poetically is not living in escape from reality, but diving into it so deeply that every detail becomes sacred. A ray of sunlight in the window isn't just light. It's a silent invitation from eternity. The rising coffee steam is an ephemeral miracle, an exchanged look, a falling leaf, a moment of boredom. Everything reveals its magical nature when it is no longer being judged by its usefulness or fitted into a chronological narrative. Without time, everything comes to life. Because nothing needs to justify its existence by lasting, by evolving, by getting somewhere. And that's when freedom appears in its purest form. You realize that you don't need to do anything to deserve to be here. You are already here, and that's enough. The idea that you need to get there dissolves like smoke, because there isn't there. There never was. It's always been here. Time has taught us to condition happiness. I will be happy when that happens. I will be complete when that is resolved. But that time never arrives. Because even when the event happens, the mind is already stuck on the next desire. Time feeds an artificial scarcity, a feeling that something is always missing, that now is never enough. And that's what gets sick. This is what exhausts us, what makes us anxious, competitive, lonely. The belief in the incompleteness of the present is the poison that time pours, drop by drop, into the human soul. But the antidote is here within your reach. It's too simple for the mind to accept immediately. You already are. It's done. It already has. Now is full. And as you rest in this now with confidence, you discover that what you sought in time was always available outside of time. Peace, love, joy are not achievements. They are natural manifestations of a being that has abandoned the illusion that it needs to be something more. And you feel it not as a philosophical conclusion, but as a silent heat that wells up in your chest like a directionless expansion. And see the irony: when you stop chasing time, you begin to perceive real time, nature's time, organic time, time that is not dictated by hands but by internal rhythms. You learn to listen to your body, which has a different tempo than your mind. Learn to respect your cycles, your pauses, your silences. Learn that there is a right time to act and a right time to rest, and that both are equally sacred. Without psychological time, you regain fluidity. He no longer lives like a robot programmed to fulfill goals, but like a river that gently curves towards the sea. Every turn is necessary, every detour perfect, because there is no destination. there is flow. And in this flow, everything has its place, even if you don't understand it with your mind. Life stops being a problem to be solved and becomes a mystery to be lived. A mystery that demands no answers, just presence. You are not a human being trying to achieve spirituality. You are consciousness itself, having a human experience for a brief moment of eternity. And this instant, this one right now, contains all the others. What you were and what you will be are inscribed in this moment as possibilities, as subtle vibrations within the field of now. But you don't have to follow them. You can just watch them, like someone contemplating the sky stars that shine but have already died, constellations that guide but never change location. Time is that sky, vast, beautiful, but illusory if taken literally. The now is the space in which you look at the sky and realize that it is him too. And when you live like this, the fear of death disappears, because the fear of death is actually the fear that time will run out before you have lived. But if you live now fully, intensely, with totality, what's missing? What still needs to happen? Eternity is not an infinite life in time. It is the deep and total experience of now. A now that, when fully lived, contains all possible lives. And then you realize that death so feared is just a change, a form in the eternal present. The fear of death arises from the idea of a separate self that lives on a finite timeline, an entity that has begun and will end. But if time is just a mental artifice, then what actually dies? It is not you. Because this deep, silent you, this conscious space that observes all transformations, was not born and will not die. He is the now itself, and the now cannot die. The now just is and will continue to be eternally new, eternally revealing itself. Death only seems tragic when you believe there is an after that will come without you. But in the now there is no later. There is only the eternal unfolding of what is. And it's not about denying the pain, nor about ignoring the losses. It's about seeing them with clearer eyes. Pain exists, yes. The longing exists. The end of forms, bodies, stories. All of this touches the human heart deeply. But when you are grounded in the now, these pains do not turn into permanent suffering. They come, complete their cycle, and go, just like the seasons, just like the waves of the sea, just like everything that is alive. You cry, you feel, you allow it, but don't get attached, because you know deep down that all of this happens within a much larger field, where nothing is lost, where everything just transforms. Time has taught us to measure everything: success, failure, value, progress. But now all these measures are dismantled. It doesn't compare, it doesn't quantify, it doesn't accumulate. He just welcomes. And it is in this acceptance that a new way of living is born, a life without rush, but full of intensity. A life where you move not out of obligation, but out of inspiration, where each gesture is complete in itself. Have you ever seen a tree trying to be more of a tree, or a river trying to run faster? They simply are. And that being is enough. You are also enough. And when you live like this, you begin to radiate a calm that people can't explain but feel. A presence that doesn't talk about the now, but is the now. And that transforms everything around, because presence is contagious. You don't need to convince anyone of anything. It just settles in like a fragrance, like a light breeze. And those who are close feel something different. A relief, a peace, a forgotten reminder that maybe, just maybe, life doesn't have to be so difficult after all. And this state is not reserved for mystics, monks, or enlightened people. It's available to anyone right now. It doesn't require years of practice. It does not require complicated techniques. It only requires one thing: stop. Stop running, stop searching, stop trying to be something other than what you already are. Stop and look. Stop and listen. Stop and feel. Because now is always calling. always whispering, always waiting for you to notice him. And if you dive, you will see that there is no bottom. The now is abyss and flight at the same time. It is silence and song. It is emptiness and fullness. It's everything that was always sought after but was never lost. Because now cannot be lost. You may forget him, but he never forgets you. It surrounds you, sustains you, gives you the chance to start over with each breath. So maybe the question is no longer, what am I going to do with my life? Perhaps the truer question is, what is life doing to me now? And by asking this, you surrender. You stop being the author of the story and become the blank paper itself, where life writes with invisible hands. And ironically, that's where you find the freedom you've been searching for. Not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to not need to do anything to be whole, because now is already, and you too. And at that final point where words are almost not enough and silence becomes the true master, you understand that there is no arrival, there is no conclusion, there is no end point. There is just this uninterrupted flow of life, this sacred whisper that has always accompanied you, but that you now hear with different ears. Not because the world changed, but because you took off the glasses of time and finally saw with the eyes of presence. And everything seems so simple that it's scary. The answer was here, it always has been. Underneath all the theories, behind all the searches, beyond all the words now. This moment as it is, not how you would like it to be, not how you imagine it should be, but exactly how it is, raw, naked, honest, alive, now doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be seen, because when seen without judgment, it reveals its intrinsic perfection. And suddenly everything that seemed missing before, everything that seemed to need fixing or hurrying, dissolves like fog in the sun of awakened consciousness. You are not someone who inhabits time. You are yourself now briefly inhabiting a human form. And that form is a portal, a channel through which the eternal experiences itself, for an instant, as finite. What a miracle it is to be able to feel, touch, love, suffer, laugh, cry, all within a dance as ephemeral as a dream, and at the same time as dense as infinity. When you live from now, there is no more how it should be. There is only as it is. And that's enough. This fills it. It heals. And perhaps, in the silence of this recognition, a light laugh emerges. Because everything you sought with so much effort that you pursued in the future, or that you tried to recover from the past, was always here waiting, not hidden, just ignored, like an old friend who never left but you didn't notice because you were too busy chasing time. So take a deep breath. Feel the air that comes in now. There is no other time. There is no other life. Everything that matters, everything that is real is happening right now. And if you can rest here without rushing, without resistance, without trying to transform anything, you have found that which no words can truly name. You have found yourself not as a character in the story, but as the space where the entire story takes place. This is the eternal invitation of now. No matter how many times you ignore it, it always comes back, because he is you. And you, contrary to what you were taught, were never inside time. Time was inside your mind. Now you know. And knowing this changes everything. If this message touched something inside you, if it awakened a spark of presence, or silenced even for a second the noise of time in your mind, then share this video with someone who may also be looking to stop running. Leave your like so that this reflection reaches more awareness. Comment below how this vision resonated with you, and subscribe to the channel so we can continue together exploring the mysteries of being. Until next time now.